Hey everyone, this is Brooke and Carly. We're here with Ella Joy Olsen today, author of Root Petal Thorn and Where the Sweet Bird Sings. Her newest book, Birdie and Jay, is available exclusively on Audible. Our goal is to equip writers with the tools necessary to get published and be successful, and we think Ella will really help you with that. So what inspired you to write Birdie and Jay?
So Birdie and Jay is a historical fiction that is based during the Gilded Age in New York City. And it takes place, a lot of it takes place in the Museum of Natural History there. That period of time was a time when the museum itself was sending expeditions abroad to find things like the Bering Strait or dinosaurs and things like that. And when I visited that museum, I was just kind of fascinated in that period of time. So I started kind of looking into maybe writing something during that Gilded Age. Was the time I felt like I could spend a lot of my own time researching. I mean, you kind of have to love your setting in order to spend so much time there as a writer. And then I happened upon a story about a hoax where there was a lot of prestige for these scientists who would find and be able to name new species. And this particular scientist claimed that he had found the missing link, the link between man and ape, and named it. And it turns out it was a hoax. He had planted false fossil specimens. And anyway, from that point, I decided I would kind of write about that hoax. I would make a fictionalized tale around this real thing that happened and turn it into a little bit of a romance. So Birdie is the daughter of a wealthy family who lives on Fifth Avenue, and Jay is a scientist, a paleontologist or scientist that goes in search of the missing link. And then it's kind of their story about overcoming social barriers and being together along with just all the Gilded Age fun. So.
I love that. Has that been one of your favorite books to write? Or do you
know, I think I've liked all my books in different ways. So my first one was for sure the book of my heart. And you guys know, as you are thinking about writing and you're working on writing your very first book, that there's sometimes an idea will sit with you for a really long time and you're continually drawn back to it. And you have a lot more flexibility while you're learning and teaching yourself to write to kind of really work on that and ponder all the details of the book. And so that book was probably the book of my heart. It also takes place in Salt Lake City. And it is, I kind of started writing, you know, they say, write what you know. I started just writing little essays about who may have lived in my home over 100 years. I live in kind of a historic home, and I've always thought, oh, I wonder what the house would have looked like when it was first built, and I wonder what the neighborhood would have looked like. And so it's really personal. It's not my story, but it has a lot of Salt Lake history. And so that one was particularly fun to write. I also got a lot of local press for that because it had a local angle. And so for like any of the acclaim that you're looking for when you think, oh, I sure hope that my friends and family, or what if I got in the newspaper, and wouldn't that be so cool? And I had all of those elements with my first book. So, I mean, I worked hard to get in all those places, newspapers and things, but I think that my crowning achievement is that I was interviewed on Radio West with Doug Fabrizio, and I love that radio show on NPR. And so when he called and asked to interview me, I was like, oh, I arrived.
That's amazing. So what's it like being published on Audible, like the pros and cons?
So I really enjoyed my experience with Audible. I loved my editor. I probably listened to maybe 3/4 of the things I read. So I'm a huge audio fan. So it was really, really fun for me to hear my story brought to life. They also did the audio versions of my 2 other books as part of my deal, which was great because then all my books are available on Audible. So I've loved that. Also, I didn't have to do as much personal marketing. Audible and Amazon have such reach and power to get right into the people who are interested in listening to your type of book that I didn't have to really put myself out there as far as marketing goes. And I have to say that marketing yourself is maybe my least favorite. And I think I do it the most poorly of all the rest of my parts of my job as being a writer. So it was kind of a sweet relief to think, okay, they're going to place this in front of people who are interested in historical fiction or stories about New York City or whatever. And I don't have to appeal to this broad brush of my social media friends. And most of them are like, I don't even read, or I don't listen to audiobooks, or I don't like historical fiction, and maybe I would touch like a couple of them and my family, or my closest friends. But otherwise, my efforts are just, they're so insignificant compared to what a publisher can do. Mm-hmm. Right now it is exclusively on Audible, but I am about done with the exclusivity period, and I'm going to get it published in paper and ebook, mostly because I want to have those available online, but even more so that I can have something to hold in my hand. You want to caress your work.
What made you decide to release it on Audible first?
They gave me the best offer. So my agent, after your agent's ready to try to sell it, you go on something called submission. And that means that your agent will approach all the publishing houses, and typically will go in order of like favorites, or where your agent feels like they have, the best in, or they know an editor who's particularly interested in historical fiction or whatever. And at the time that she was selling this, Audible had started up a new program to offer full-length stories as like an original and exclusive, not to be sold other places. And they were trying to build that library. And so their offer was great. And I loved the idea of not having to market it. And I really liked my editor. I talked with her several times, and I just felt like she really kind of got the story. The bad part of it is like, they don't sell to libraries. They don't work well with libraries. And I'm a huge proponent of libraries and having those materials available widely, and they don't play. So while it's available now to libraries, it's only in like CD form. And that's just not how people are listening to audiobooks anymore. So you could get it, but you'd have to, put it into your CD player, and who's going to do that now? So that would be maybe the downside, but I like the product. I liked how it turned out. So
Ella, I remember you kind of you were the one who kind of told me what it was like to first publish your book. Like I think as author or writers, we have kind of this fantasy of what it's like to publish your first book, and it might not be that. So would you mind kind of giving us the real facts on it?
Okay. Well, for me, it was really a lot of work. There's the writing part of it, and I got it to a place where I thought it was probably decent enough. And then I started working on putting together a query letter, which I had no idea what it was initially or what I was even supposed to do. So tons and tons of research. And then after you have your query letter to a place where you think that it's good, that's when you start researching agencies, literary agencies, and within those agencies, the agents that you think might be interested in your work. And there are so many out there. And so it really is a test of endurance and perseverance, I think, even more so than sheer talent. I do think that there are a few that get swooped up all of a sudden. They put out a couple of queries, but it really is rare. I think that in my classes that I teach, I talk about like J.K. Rowling got a bunch of, she was rejected over and over again, and finally got an agent and then a publisher. But the agent only was interested in her after their kid read the book and said, "This is really good," So it's hard. So it took me over 2 years, and I just kept doggedly pursuing it. And I would send out about 4 queries every week. And I would keep track of the responses that I got. And then so I had this really long spreadsheet, and I followed up when I needed to follow up. And I probably ended up I think I met my agent at about query 50. but then she had to read the book and it took her forever and ever. And there was all sorts of other things that happened. And in the end, I knew she was interested, but she changed agencies and had a bunch of other things happen. And I didn't sign with her. I ended up signing with somebody else at about query 200. And then that person had an accident. In her immediate family lost a couple of people in a car accident. She said, I can't do anything with your book. I'm stepping away. And so I called the agent back, that's my agent now, and said, hey, are you still interested? And she said, oh, I've been thinking about you. Let's talk on Monday. So at that point, then she signed me and we started working together to sell the book. But it was, if I had given up at any point, I wouldn't be published. And it was hard, at first, I would send out 1 or 2 and I'd be like, oh, please let something come back. And, toward, 50 and on, I was like, go. And I don't care,
Yeah.
So it was hard. And it's daunting, but I guess if that's part of it, I mean, if you want to be traditionally published, then there's that you have to contend with. You can self-publish your book and have it out really quickly and have it be exactly what you want it to be. But you're the one who has to do all the marketing. Not that you won't do marketing anyway, but if you need that validation that it's traditionally publishable, then you have to pursue it and try not to feel bad. So
I've got like the thick writer skin.
yes.
Yeah, I would agree. So do you think it was worth it to traditionally publish it?
I'll say I'm not paying the mortgage. So if you look at the success as far as financially goes, if I had gone out and gotten another job, I would have definitely ended up making more. That doesn't mean that on my next book or whatever, I'm not going to hit it out of the park. It's just the thing is that there are only a handful of books that really make quite a bit of money. And the rest of the books just kind of, they're kind of mid-list. And I mean, I've heard some depressing statistics that traditionally published authors on average make about $10,000 a year. So
Yeah.
it kind of is it's a passion project, although I do have a lot of friends that are, in my writing circles that are making it, and it's not just with a one hit. It's more like they develop a following and they're consistent and they're putting out one book every year or every other year, and each of them kind of it's like a snowball effect, and they've got a livable wage. Now that would be the money side. Do I wish I had published? I guess emotionally, I think I needed that kind of validation, and I for sure in publishing traditionally, I got the I guess that it indicated that I had the chops to do it to other people. So that's when I started teaching at the university. They contacted me and asked if I could teach some writing classes through lifelong learning. And that's been really rewarding. And I felt like I could teach classes and I could have my own little writing company. And I had, I had the proof that I could do it in my pocket. So in that way, yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah, tell us more about the classes that you offer. That was our next question.
Mm-hmm. So everything has been upended because of COVID. I haven't taught at the university for almost a year, but I do have a query class like Carly took coming up in April. And so that's, and you would sign up for it through lifelong learning at the University of Utah. And it's just a 2-day, 2 sessions, 1 week apart. Query boot camp. And then through the little, I have a writing company called Salty City Writing Workshops. And I've partnered with a gal who specializes in narrative nonfiction or memoir. And so we kind of just cover both bases and we do things. We're teaching classes. I really prefer to teach in person. I have a hard time with Zoom. The virus hit when I think Carly was in my class too. And so it was in person and then all of a sudden it wasn't. And then I had to follow up with people for that class, but I also had 2 other sessions through the Park City Library. And they were all on Zoom, and I thought, you know what, I'm not like, I'm ending these sessions feeling exhausted. And so I just told them at the U I wouldn't teach again until it was in person. So, and same with the Salty City. But through Salty City, I also do editing of full manuscripts, you know, like big picture reads. And then we also have held an annual writers retreat, which is really fun. If that's going to happen or not, it had to get canceled last year, and I'm not entirely sure it's going to happen this year either. The idea of taking, you know, 15 women and putting them in one house together in the middle of the summer, I just don't know. I don't know if people are going to be all that interested yet. But anyway, those are all still things that we do. So.
Perfect. And I'll leave a comment, or in the caption, I'll leave a link to your website so people can do it. I have used Ella and had her give me some feedback on my beginning chapters, and it was so helpful. Learned a lot.
Thank you.
But that is all we have time for today. So thank you.
Your feedback is awesome too.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to add that.
So thank you so much, Ella, for joining us. You can get her book on Audible. It is called Birdie and Jay. And be sure to join us next week for when we have Ella talk about query letters and how to find an agent. Be sure to like, comment, and share. And don't forget to ring the bell so you'll be notified when our next video is up. Thank you. Bye-bye.